Welcome to another episode of the Plutus Awards Podcast. Our community is filled with hundreds of stories from creators and entrepreneurs just like you. And through this show, we share these stories of challenges and successes, from bloggers to podcasters to writers, speakers, and more. Today's guest is Candice Latham, a marketing specialist for nonprofit organizations and a brand business owner at Latham Agency. We talk about what it means to own your version of success, how Candice shifted how she pursues her goals in business and life, and how you can work backwards to capture the feeling of success in your business. Let's dive right into my conversation with Candice. I am really curious about how you define success in the past, because I know that definition has really changed for you. So let's start off in the beginning of what that was for you.
When I was younger, I feel like my definition of success was, making all this money and also just wrapped around like having all these material items. It was also just based off of other people's definition of success. So I hadn't really owned what my own definition was. And so I was really just basing kind of my own definition of success based off of what other people were telling me or what I was assuming success was from other people.
And what were some of those assumptions?
Yeah, so I think that's where it came from. The ideas about having all this money means, you are successful. Because I feel like when I first started this blogging journey, I didn't really know anybody else in the space. I was just happy showing up each week and, creating my weekly blog posts, sending out my weekly emails, growing my following. And then once I started learning other people in the space and attending the conferences, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, people are making six figures from their brands and they have 100,000 followers. I need 100,000, YouTube subscribers. I need all these things. That's kind of where my success shift switched to. I need all these things so that I can be successful.
So for you back then, what would having a lot of money have meant?
That's a good question. So having a lot of money back then would have meant, just kind of taking me out of my situation, being able to help my family. That's kind of really what it meant for me because I was still living back at home with my mom. So just being able to help my mom more and then just, get my own space so that I'm not living with my mom, but then also just be able to, help my family.
What I love about how you're talking about what it sounds like external validation almost in terms of success or what other people are doing. So therefore, that's kind of my definition of success, which is, I think, quite common when, and please correct me if I'm wrong, when people don't necessarily know what they want, is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't think I really sat down and just figured out what, at my core, what do I want? What are my values? What kind of life do, I want that's going to, because, we're the only one that actually has to wake up and live this life. So it's not about what other people look like they are experiencing success and what that means for them, because we're never going to live that life. Well, we don't know how it feels living that life through them. So it's just about creating a life that feels good for us.
Yeah, I love that. Why did you decide to start a blog in the first place?
I decided to start a blog to help other people and share my knowledge with them because at the time I was just doing different interviews with people and asking them what's one thing they wish they knew when they were 18. And people kept bringing up this topic of money and I wish I would have saved more. I wish I would have taken money more seriously. So I was like, wow, I feel like I need to share this information with other people to help them, make wiser choices while they're still young.
So it started off as helping other people and then going to, I know you go to FinCon and then seeing, oh my gosh, all these entrepreneurs are making some great money.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, you opens your eyes to the possibilities. And then, of course, your definition of success and all of those things. So after seeing all the possibilities and even definition of success from other people, how did that change what you did with your blog and maybe some other side business that you had?
It changed because now I'm kind of more focused on things that I can't control. A switch that I had is that I can't really base my success on things that I can't control. It has to be based off of my daily activities. So for example, I can't say success for me is having, 100,000 subscribers when I'm not really in control over who is subscribing to my page. Now my success has to be based on my daily tasks. I'll feel successful this week if I create, 2 YouTube videos to, my specific audience that's going to impact them in some way. So that's more of a reasonable definition for me to feel happy and, for it to feel worthwhile and to just keep my emotions in check. Because now suddenly if I don't reach that 100,000 subscriber goal, now I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not successful.
Right. So it sounds like I almost wanted to call it the before times. Don't ask me why. but the before, when you're looking, I guess, outward, was more you made goals based on results you wanted instead of processes that you are doing.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. So did you have an income goal or did you have a subscriber goal back then? And then how did you feel as you were trying to reach those goals?
When I first started blogging, like, again, I didn't know anything. I just, set up the webpage and I was writing each week. And then, I started creating an organic following. There wasn't like a blueprint that I was working from. I was just working out of my own internal thoughts and beliefs and core. I think that technology and conferences are helpful because it does kind of open your eyes to what's possible. And it can maybe help you as you are building your audience. But I think for me, what changed is like, now I'm not really so much focused on, my inner core and the messaging and making sure that I'm helping people, which that should always be at the main front. Now it's like, oh, what kind of subject line can I get? Or like, what kind of videos should I create so that I can get the most clicks versus the most impact? I was just solely focused on just growing so that I can make this money so that I can change my life. Right. But part of me is just like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money to change your life.
Yeah, it's that balance of how do you strive for growth, but also how do you strive for sticking to your, I guess, values, really what makes you feel happiest in your life, ultimately.
Yes.
And so when did that start changing for you? Because like you said, you were, back then you were like really focused on the likes and the clicks and I guess growth at growth's sake. And then now you can turn this almost 180, right? Where you're like, okay, now I'm seeking more purpose in what I'm doing. So when did that shift for you?
I want to say like when I was in my younger 20s, this is kind of also like the Boss Babe era. When Boss Babe was out, everybody, it was just like, quit your job, be an entrepreneur, like make 6 figures a month, it's the Boss Babe era. That's the before. And then as I got older, I'm in my late 20s now. Now I'm hitting like my 30s. I realized that so much of my time when I was in my younger 20s was devoted to just, being online, building this community, writing my blog, sending newsletters out. And I wasn't really focused on, like what comes with getting older, like thinking about family, thinking about like, what else do I want besides building a brand? I think my mind was just solely focused on brand. And then as I got older, then I got into a serious relationship. I'm like, oh, wait, there's family. And now I actually enjoy spending time with this person rather than spending all my time, building this brand.
So it sounds like there's different facets of your life in which you can define success.
Success, yes. I think when I was younger, success was just, the circle of success was just like full-time entrepreneur. That was my success definition. Then as I got older, it was just like, oh, it doesn't have to be, full-time entrepreneur. It could just be different things. And my well-being is in here, like, taking walks in nature, make sure I'm taking care of my body, make sure I'm drinking water, but also making sure that I am still making an impact, but also spending time with my significant other. So my bubble of success expanded rather than just being solely focused on just being a full-time entrepreneur.
Yeah. And what I find really interesting, I think this is just in general, is as people have different, I don't want to say competing, but different priorities in life or different versions of success they want to strive for, it almost feels like it's competing with each other, or there's only so many hours in a day that you can do that. And so for you, I'm really curious, has it been the case for you? And if so, how did you come to terms with all of these seemingly competing versions of success?
Yeah, there is only so many hours in a day. And, the definition of success, when you Google it, it's like the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. So really, we're all just creating our own definition of what success is for us. An accomplishment could be like, oh, I'm going to make sure that I start working out 3 times a week. I'm going to make sure that I at least create 1 video for my audience. So we're kind of creating what our definition of what accomplishment that we're trying to strive for. And then using our hours to make sure that our daily activities are going to allow us to reach this aim or purpose. Sometimes it does feel like you are kind of competing because I also, right now, it's like I have a 9 to 5. So that kind of takes up a large chunk of my day already. And then once I get off work, if I do have, some client work, or I do want to put out a video for my brand, like then that takes up some time. But then I also want to make sure that I got to cook dinner, or I got to spend time with the family, or I also want to go take a jog. So it is kind of like you have to make sure that you're prioritizing your time based off of, the life and what's going to, fill your happiness compass. I like to call it a happiness compass.
Yeah, that's a great term. For you, what specifically do you do to steer that happiness compass or make sure that you are prioritizing what is most important to you at any given point in time?
So I think it just depends on the seasons of my life, because right now I am getting married next month. So the wedding planning takes up a large chunk of my time. And then also, work, but then making sure that I do still want to create content for my audience. So when I wake up in the morning, I do kind of have different priorities. When I wake up, usually I do want to make sure that I am, making sure that I'm taking care of myself first before I tend to the world. So usually wake up at 6:15, journaling, working out, prayer, meditation, then, get ready for my work day. After the work is over, some days after work, I just have to myself to just, be free and enjoy and relax. And then there's other days of the week where I'm like, okay, I have this client project that I've taken on. So, maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm working on that client project. Okay, Wednesday nights, maybe I'm filming the YouTube video. So I'm kind of giving my days different themes based off of, my certain priorities in the season.
It sounds like you're really intentional with the tasks you want to do and even just thinking through what the priorities are. For anyone out there who's kind of like, well, I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want. I sort of have an idea. I'm not really sure, but I want to be more intentional about it. They're still figuring out their values or they're really defining what their version of success would be. What would you say to them?
Sometimes when I'm doing coaching with people, I ask them okay, if we were talking, 1 year from now, what would you have want to accomplish? Sometimes thinking about the future kind of helps you figure out what your priorities are going to be today. Maybe it'll help just working backwards. Like, what is this future vision of my life that I want it to look like? And then kind of just start incorporating those daily activities into your day-to-day right now.
Oh, that's good. So would working backwards then be for your business or even your personal life?
Yeah, I think even your personal life as well. Like for me, when I'm thinking about, I just think about what kind of person do I want to be? Even just thinking about what kind of person I want to be helps me, when I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like working out. I'm like, oh, but I do. I want to be a person that works out in the future. I want to be a person that loves working out. So I have to, start building those habits today so that eventually I am that person that loves working out. So yeah, I think it can relate to your business and it can also relate to your personal life as well.
So I love the idea of what you said, habits. And how would you know really generally what habits you need in order to accomplish a goal or this vision that you set out for yourself?
Habits are everything. They're so important. In your personal life, it's just like, okay, if I want to, be a person that's more in shape, I know I have to work out. But in business, even habits are important. And I realized this when I was, working for myself full time. Sometimes when I don't utilize my time, effectively, there was a lot of hours that I'm just wasting because I'm not creating certain habits that I should be doing that's trying to get the results that I say that I want. And now that I'm working at a 9 to 5, every day I am doing certain daily habits that I'm seeing that, oh, I should have been doing these daily habits in my own business because now I realize just the importance of them. Because if you don't kind of just start getting things in place, the days are just going to keep passing by. The months are going to keep passing by. So I think you have to kind of, again, work backwards. Like, what do I want? If I want to, make sure that I'm creating content consistently, what do I have to do today to make that a reality, a month from now? So yeah, I think just, again, it kind of starts from starting backwards.
And how often would someone sit down and maybe reflect or even come up with some of these habits or create this vision of success that they would want?
I think that it could start at least like once a week. Like Sunday's a good day for me to sit down and reflect on my week, to check in with how I'm feeling, what went well, what didn't go well, what in this coming week do I want to actually work on that's going to help me reach my future goals? What am I going to do differently this week that I didn't do last week that's going to help me, get to a certain place? So I think Sundays are a good time to reflect on what went well, what didn't go well, and what do you want to implement for the coming week.
That's great. So switching gears a little bit, because we can't really talk about success without the word failure or the perceived failure. Let's say someone has this vision of success, like like you in the, I'm going to keep using before times now because I started using it.
Before time, yep.
Right? So your version of success in the before time, you thought that's what you wanted, right? You're going for it. And then you realize, okay, either I'm failing horribly at this, or maybe this is not what I want. It's a two-part question. A, at which point did you realize this is not what I want? And B, if someone were to really look at what they were doing, like at which point would they know? Like, what would you say? Like, what are some questions or reflection, I guess, tasks would you have them say, like, okay, is this truly what you want? Or have you just encountered some sort of stumbling block that you need to move through?
I think that if something isn't working after a certain period of time, I think that's kind of a clue to maybe move into a different direction. And again, like giving yourself kind of a deadline. I think for me, it was like, okay, if I'm, working for myself, but I also now my priorities have, they're starting to clash because it's like, well, I'm saying, I want to get married. I want to build this, just a family life, but this family life also requires money. So if I'm doing this on my own and it's like, I need a certain amount of money to make so I can reach these other goals that I have also prioritized in my life, obviously giving myself enough leeway to see the results, right, from my daily activities that I'm doing. If like 6 months or and even in a year, I haven't reached this certain number, then I do kind of have to pivot or like adjust my plan in some way because there's something that's not working.
So it sounds like maybe have some benchmarks too. Like, so this is what I think I want, or this is currently my priority of my success or my measurement of success. And then have some, maybe sounds like a tangible measure of success.
Yeah, I think just having a tangible measure of success and making sure that you're giving yourself enough room to actually grow into that and just to see how things are going. Yeah, you have to be willing to actually pivot and do something different because even that could be a challenge. Because you might just want to hold on. You're like, no, I know I said 6 months, but let's do it. Give it another 6. Now that time passes. Now it's 2 years in and you're still in the same place.
Was that the case for you? Have you ever had a time where you're like, okay, like this is my benchmark and I've hit it and I probably should pivot, but I don't know.
For me, I just think that, that's where I was when I was like freelancing. And then I was like, well, should I go back to a 9 to 5? I had to let go. And just realize that, yeah, something isn't working. There's something that I still need to learn so that I, if I do enter full-time entrepreneurship again, I could be more successful based off of my new knowledge and my new, habits. And there's something missing here in this recipe that I have to work on so that I can, prepare an amazing meal.
And do you know what those missing pieces are?
Now, looking back, okay, let me back up. So before I became a full-time entrepreneur, I worked at a 9 to 5. And it just wasn't really a healthy work environment. And I feel like that environment had an effect on like my confidence and my belief in my worth and self. So it's like I'm going from working in a toxic workplace to just working full time for myself. But, when it comes to business, it's not all about strategies and procedures. And, you also have to really have, the inner belief and the inner confidence in yourself to even be able to show up and help other people. So, yeah, there's a lot of healing that's involved even in working for yourself.
Right. And so it sounds like your goal with this 9 to 5 is to hopefully not be in a toxic work environment. I'm assuming you like your employer.
Yeah, no. I'm not in a toxic work environment anymore. And yeah, I've definitely done a lot of healing since then and just increasing my skills, and just like my belief in self. Because every time you're able to accomplish something and then other people notice and they're complimenting you on that, you're like, oh my gosh, I really am, helping make people's lives better. My ideas really do matter. My ideas are, impacting people in a positive way.
So it sounds like in this case, your benchmark for success or your benchmark for how, something's working is really that feeling of confidence.
Yeah. If you don't feel that confidence, sometimes it doesn't matter what other people believe or how much people think you're skilled or talented if you don't show up and start believing that for yourself, because your confidence is attached to so many things, even like the way you run your business, the prices that you set for yourself, the way you work with your clients, like all of that kind of does start from the inside.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's really great. The idea of confidence and being willing to pivot and to see that idea of success. And circling back to what you said earlier about we're all working towards our versions of success or our own version of success and how it can be different. If someone is really just beginning to think about this, right? Maybe they're just starting on the entrepreneur journey, or they just quit their 9 to 5, whatever it may be. And they're really trying hard to figure out what their own version of success is. Like, what would you say to them? Like, how would they know that this is something that for them is worthy to work towards?
I think first start to pay attention to the different tasks that you're doing day to day that you enjoy. That's kind of a key sign for you. Like if you just had a conversation with a client and, something about that client conversation, you got off the call like, wow, that was really amazing. Like what was so amazing about that? Why did that kind of light you up inside? Why did that spark you up? So kind of start paying attention to what does spark you up. Like I said, it's really just an internal and inside job, because you might see somebody on Instagram that you follow that's very popular and you see something that sparks them up that they went forward with. If you just want to copy them, but you don't know if that's going to light you up, because I think we're all built differently. We all have different skills, talents, and abilities. So you really have to just kind of go from your own, your inner happiness compass again, to figure out what is this life that you're going to build that you feel good about living, right? Because it's not about what makes other people feel good if when you try it, it doesn't really kind of light you up.
Right. So it's ultimately, don't be afraid of using your own internal compass and looking and seeing how you feel. And maybe the whole comparison thing too is what I'm getting from that as well.
Yeah, I just think that today it's so easy to just look around at what everyone else is doing and then, pivot and do that thing, but just making sure that you're doing that thing for the right reason.
Throughout your journey now, being in business, and now it's a side business, but in business nonetheless, right? Like, and thinking about the versions of success, like what would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned from all that?
I think the biggest lesson is just going back to within, checking in with how I feel about the things that I'm doing, right? Making sure that I'm doing the things for the right reasons and not because of external validation or, I'm chasing some number that's beyond my control. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing, that success is what I make it based off of my own definition and what feels right for me in the life that I get to live every day.
Well, Candice, where can everyone find you online and all of your amazing stuff that you're doing right now?
Oh, yes. You guys can find me on Instagram. That's probably my main platform. You can get everything else from there, my website. But my website is CandiceLatham.com. And then my Instagram is at prosper_with Candice.
Awesome. I'll make sure to have everything linked in the show notes for everyone. Again, Candice, thank you so much for coming on the Plutus Awards Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's take a look at some lessons we can learn from my conversation with Candice. Lesson number 1 is to check your internal compass. So what does your version of success mean? Are you headed in the right direction? Is it something that you want, or is it something that you think you should want, or what you see others around you doing? Now for Candice, at the very beginning, which we joked the before times, she talked about not really knowing what she wanted or really getting clear on her values. And so she looked for more external validation or external markers of success. There's nothing wrong with that. It happens to the best of us. I know that has happened to me before. But the more you look inside, or your internal compass, the more happy you're going to be, or more fulfilled you're going to be when you reach a certain level of success. And on that note, lesson number 2 is to chase a feeling, not a tangible accomplishment. Now, it's great to have 6-figure or 7-figure earnings in your business, or you can be featured in Forbes, Inc., all the places. But how does that make you feel? At the end of the day, you are living your life and you want to be able to have a good one. So even if you have accomplished all of these amazing accolades and you don't feel good about it, is that really a good thing? So consider thinking about the feeling that you want to strive for or to feel all the time, and then put in the tangible things that it's going to help you feel that way. Lesson number 3 is it's okay to shift priorities and your version of success. As you heard from my conversation with Candice, now she's getting engaged, she's going to get married in a couple of weeks, and so she's thinking about different things in her life, whereas before, as a single person in her younger 20s, it was really all about her career. And so her priorities have shifted, and her version of success is going to shift as well. And the same thing's going to happen to you in your life. Whether you move to a new country, you reach FIRE, or you're really now super interested in, let's say, YouTube videos instead of podcasting, that's okay. It's okay to shift your priorities, and it's okay to see what you want and go for it. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Plutus Awards Podcast. If you're interested in collaborating with other financial bloggers, podcasters, influencers, and more to chat about your work, interests, ask and answer questions, come join our Facebook community. Search for Plutus Community in the search bar or head to facebook.com/groups/Plutus Community. We hope to see you there and get a chance to support you and your amazing work.